Rido, and welcome to the Pantheon, where it's really quite cold outside, so snuggle up warm, and I'll take you through a look at a terrible serpent beast. That's right, it's Koma, Cosmos Serpent. 7 mana for a 6/6. The spell can't be countered. At the beginning of each upkeep, create a 3/3 blue serpent creature token named Koma's Coil. Sacrifice another serpent, choose one. Tap target permanent, its activated abilities can't be activated this turn. Or, Koma Cosmos Serpent gains indestructible until end of turn. There's quite a lot to unpack there. You know, Koma is a big, massive threat. 7 mana is a lot of mana, but it's shocking how quickly it all gets out of control with all the coils there. And the fact that it can grant indestructible to itself is really quite good. So, without further ado, let's have a look at my subscription button. If you like what you're seeing and you want to watch a few more of these, I'm going to be making one of these videos about every single legendary creature ever printed. Oh, that's my plan. It's going to take a while, but we're going to get there. So please subscribe, like, and comment. It'll make me feel great inside. Without further ado, let's have a look at number 5. And then at number 5, well, we've got a little tribal thing going on here. It's Quest for Ula's Temple. A single blue for an enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may look at the top card of your library. If it's a creature card, you may reveal it and put a quest counter on Quest for Ula's Temple. So obviously, green and blue, we're going to be playing a lot of creatures because, well, green and blue creatures are pretty damn good. But we want them to be a certain type because, at the beginning of each end step, if there are 3 or more quest counters on Quest for Ula's Temple, you may put a Kraken, Leviathan, Octopus, or Serpent creature card from your hand onto the battlefield. Really, really cool. This is the sort of tribal thing I like to see. Very small investment. You look at the top, you see what's coming, and then we can just put big fatties into play. But what are we going to put in? Well, Slithering, the Rising Deep, is an 8 mana 8/8 with kicker for 2 mana. When it enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, return all creatures to their owner's hands, except for merfolk, krakens, leviathans, octopuses, and serpents. So yes, off Quest for Ula's Temple, you won't get that ability, but just being able to put in a free 8/8 is really powerful. And late game, this can just be a massive board wipe, and we keep all of our coils and our comas around. Whelming Wave is a 4 mana sorcery. Return all creatures to their owner's hand, except for krakens, leviathans, octopuses, and serpents. So again, we keep our entire board state and our opponents lose everything. Spawning Kraken, 6 mana for a 6/6 Kraken. Whenever a Kraken, Leviathan, Octopus, or Serpent you control deals combat damage to a player, create a 9/9 blue Kraken creature token. So this works for every single one of our tokens. So if we have a massive board of little coils, it's going to make us a massiver board of 9/9s. And they're all Krakens, so they work wonderfully with all of these creatures. Striped Riverwinder, 7 mana for a 5/5 Serpent. It's got hexproof. Need I say more? And it's got cycling for a secret, a single blue, which is really the main reason we're playing it. Early game, we can just cycle it away. Late game, it's a bit of a threat that we can sacrifice to Coma in a pinch. Then we've got Arixmathes Slumbering Isle. This is the sort of card we like in this deck. It's ramp, but it's also fitting in with our tribal synergy. 4 mana for a 12/12. Enter the battlefield tapped with 5 slumber counters on it. As long as it has a slumber counter on it, it's a land. And whenever you cast a spell, you may remove a slumber counter from it. And you can tap it for a green and a blue. Really, really good. Nice bit of ramp. Accelerates us into Coma early. If we play this on turn 4 and then have a land drop, that's 7 mana, so we can get her out. And it's just cool. It's just so cool. Like, your mana dork is a 12/12. Really, really nice. Then finally, Serpent of Yawning Depths. 6 mana for a 6/6. Krakens, Leviathans, Octopuses, and Serpents you control can't be blocked except by Krakens, Leviathans, Octopuses, and Serpents. Great little tribal synergy. All of our things can just swing in without any reproach. And then if something bad's going to happen, Coma can sacrifice one of our coils, tap down a creature that might come in for lethal damage or something like that. Very nice. Which brings me on to number 4. And in at number 4, we have Kiara, Behemoth Beckoner. Very specifically this sort of art. 3 mana for a 7 loyalty planeswalker. Whenever a creature with power 4 or greater enters the battlefield under your control, draw a card. So the coils that we're making, they are 3/3s, but if we've got any sort of anthem or, you know, Master Biomancer, where when things come in, they get extra counters, this will draw us a card every single upkeep when a coil comes in. And then -1, untap target permanent. Nice bit of ramp, gets us to our commander. Powerful. Really, really quite powerful. But the main reason I want to play this card and these cards is the sort of anime aesthetic. So, well, Coma, you know, makes coils, you know, sort of tentacles and things like that. And there's quite a genre of anime and you know, more adult and anime that is revolving around tentacles and anime. And anyway, that's just a thought. You could do that if you wanted to. I personally hate anime. I just thought it'd be quite funny. Anyway, Vivian, Champion of Wilds, is a 3 mana 4 loyalty planeswalker. You may cast creature spells as though they had flash, +1 till your next turn, up to 1 target creature gains vigilance and reach. And -2, look at the top 3 cards of your library, exile 1 face down, and put the rest onto the bottom of your library in any order. For as long as it remains exiled, you may look at that card and you may cast it if it's a creature. Then Narset and Tamiyo, part of this deck is very much controlling, and these are 2 great cards that really help with that sort of effect. Narset Pater avails 3 mana for a 5 loyalty planeswalker. Each opponent can't draw more than 1 card each turn. Miserable for your opponents, but really good for us. And we're going to get a bit of advantage through the ability. Look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may reveal a non-creature, non-land card from there among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. And she's an anime. Tamiyo, Collector of Tales, 4 mana for a 5 loyalty planeswalker. Spells and abilities your opponent's control can't cause you to discard cards or sacrifice permanents. Nice little hate card here. There are quite a lot of decks which want you to do that. And if we've got Tamiyo on the field, it just says no. +1, choose an online card name, then reveal the top 4 cards of your library. Put all cards with a chosen name from among them into your hand and the rest onto your graveyard. Then -3, return target card from your graveyard to your hand. Nice little bit of buyback. We can get back anything that's big. And it works really well with our number 1 card, which is coming up in a second. In at number 3, though, we have Dismiss into Dream. 7 mana for an enchantment. Each creature your opponents control is an illusion in addition to its other types and has, when this creature becomes the target of a spell or ability, sacrifice it. So these are all these cards that we're going to look at here are ways that we can use the coils in really unique ways. And one of the abilities that our commander has is to sacrifice a coil, tap down a permanent. So with Dismiss into Dream, it's not just that we're tapping down the creature, or just us targeting it with that ability is going to make their opponent sacrifice it, and we're just going to remove it outright, which is powerful. Exactly what we want to do. And because we get a coil every single upkeep, we can just control the board and stop our opponents from having creatures outright. To go along with this, we've got Elemental Bond. This works much better than Kiara earlier, but this isn't an anime. 3 mana for an enchantment. Whenever a creature with power 3 or greater enters the battlefield under your control, draw a card. So every one of the coils is a 3/3, so we're going to each upkeep get a card through Elemental Bond. Then, because we're getting so many of these tokens, Convoke is really, really good. Card of Calling is triple green and X for an instant with Convoke. Your creature can help you cast a spell. Each creature you tap while casting a spell pays for 1 generic or 1 mana of that creature's colour, so green. Search your library for a creature card with converting mana cost X or less and put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. So this tutors up whatever sort of threat, whatever big octopus dude that you want to flop onto the field, and it really, really works well. Sundering Vitia is a card that it works really cool here, and removal for artifacts and enchantments is just something you want to build into your decks, and this works excellently with our token theme. 3 mana for an instant, Convoke, so you can tap our creatures to pay for it. Destroy target artifact and enchantment. thanks to the fact that it has Convoke, we can just tap out of our mana. Our opponents be like, oh, okay, I'll play this massive artifact. And then out of nowhere, you tap all your dudes and destroy it. Really, really nice. Which brings me on to number 2. And in at number 2, we have Double Major. And these cards are all about copying our commander. Green and blue for an instant. Copy target creature spell you control. Except it isn't legendary if that spell is legendary. So when we're casting Coma, if we have 2 extra mana, this gives us another copy of Coma. So each upkeep we're going to be making 2 coils, and we can just spiral out of control, and they can give themselves indestructible. It's just going to be absolutely ridiculous. Helm of the Host is the exact same thing, except it's on equipment. 4 mana for an equipment with a quick cost of 5. At the beginning of combat on your turn, create a token that's a copy of a quick creature, except the token isn't legendary. The token gains haste. So we can just make Coma after Coma after Coma, and they'll just make coils and just be sort of things flying everywhere. Everything's going to be tapped. It's just horrific and magnificent all at the same time. Spark Double, 4 mana for an illusion 0/0. You may have Spark Double enter the battlefield as a copy of a creature or planeswalker you control, except enter with an additional 1/1 counter on it if it's a creature, and enters as an initial loyalty counter and if it's a planeswalker. And it isn't legendary. So there we go. We've got another Coma. We're up to about 18 at this point. If you've not won by that point, just put your opponents out of their misery. And then Sakshima the Imposter, 4 mana for a 3/1 human rogue. As it comes into play, you may choose a creature in play. If you do, Sakshima comes into play as a copy of that creature. Except its name is still Sakshima the Imposter and it's still legendary. So yes, it is legendary, but it's got a different name, so we don't have to sacrifice the original Coma. And you can pay 4, return it to its owner's hand at the end of turn. So rebuy it, potentially. But a lot of these cards make tokens. And obviously Coma makes tokens, each upkeep. So why don't we double the amount of tokens that we're making? Second Harvest is and the Coma copies are non-legendary, so we can copy them, and it's just insane. Second Harvest, 4 mana for an instant. For each token you control, create a token that's a copy of that permanent. So the Comas are just going to spiral out of control. Then Adrix and Nev Twincasters, 4 mana for a 2/2 with Ward 2, which means whenever this creature becomes the target of a spell or ability an opponent controls, counter it unless that player pays 2. And if 1 or more tokens were created under your control, twice that many tokens are created instead. So even if we just have 1 Coma, our Coma will then produce 2 coils. And finally, Parallel Lives, 4 mana for an enchantment. If an effect would put 1 or more tokens onto the battlefield under your control, if it puts twice that many of those tokens onto the battlefield instead. Nice, simple effect. We're just going to keep spiraling out of control. Which brings me on to number 1. And I talked earlier about how this is a very sort of controlling deck. Well, Stasis works incredibly with our commander. Stasis is a blue and a colorless for an enchantment. Players skip their untap steps. At the beginning of your upkeep, sacrifice Stasis unless you pay a blue. So, if our opponents are tapped down, they just can't untap. And each upkeep, we're going to be making an untapped coil, which, if we use Coma's ability, we can sacrifice to tap down whatever permanents they play. All we have to do is keep making a blue, keep making land drops. If we're got 7 lands on the field, we play this with 2 of our lands, we've then got 5 lands. We should, in theory, keep it around for 5 turns as you play a blue every single turn. And in those times, you can draw more lands and just really ice out your opponents. It's pretty miserable, but it's so powerful and just works so well with Coma. To go along with it, if you've got a Phyrexian Altar, you're always going to have a blue, as Coma is always going to be making those tokens which are untapped, and we can just sacrifice 1 for 1 blue every single upkeep, and yeah, your opponents are going to be utterly miserable. It's going to be really good fun for you, which is great. Winter Orb, 2 mana for an artifact. As long as it is untapped, players can't untap more than 1 land during their untap steps. Exactly the same theory. Yes, we can't untap our lands. Well, we can untap 1, but guess what? Stasis only costs 1 blue, so we can just keep... Oh no, Stasis stops you from tapping things. But this is a very similar effect. With Koma's ability to tap down lands, we can just make sure our opponents don't have anything they can cast. And it's just miserable. And actually, Koma could tap the Winter Orb, I think. Or is it non-opponent? I can't remember. But if that's true, Koma can tap the Winter Orb, and then we can untap all of our lands. How terrible. Then Static Orb, 3 mana for an artifact. If Static Orb is untapped, players can't untap more than 2 permanents during their untap step. Exactly the same. We're just going to be gaining tons of value through all of our coils. We can tap down everything our opponent do untap, and they're just going to be utterly unhappy. Great fun. And those are my top 5 cards for Koma, the Cosmos Serpent. Really cool commander, very expensive, can't be countered, is nice, and it can lead to some utterly miserable games, which always makes me very, very happy inside. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this, I will be trying to make a video on every single legendary creature that's going to be coming out, and the ones in the past as well, which is a daunting task. There's about 1,000, but hey ho, I enjoy doing this. So thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe, and I'll see you later. Bye.